Hey everyone, and welcome. I'm Alex.
And I'm Ben.
Today, we are diving into a really fascinating new paper from Google Research, and it claims to have found a way to make AI, well, a little more frugal.
Frugal or just less mind-bogglingly wasteful? I'm not sold that this isn't just throwing more complexity at a problem we already spend too much on.
Well, that is exactly what we are here to figure out. Let's get into it. So, let's just start with a big question right up front. You've got this super powerful AI agent. It can search the web, it can use all sorts of tools, it can find you answers. But is it actually being efficient? Or is it just burning through your cloud credits like there's no tomorrow? This is the core problem we're talking about today. Okay, so the common sense assumption, the one we all kind of make, is that if you give an AI more resources, you're going to get better results. It just seems logical, right? You give it a bigger budget for things like API calls or web searches, and you would expect it to find better, more accurate answers. I mean, the more it can look around, the more info it can gather, the smarter it should get. It's a pretty straightforward idea. Yeah, but Alex, that's the classic assumption, and this chart right here shows why it's just plain wrong. I mean, look at that blue line. You throw more money at the AI, and its performance just flatlines. It hits what the paper calls a performance ceiling. So every extra dollar, every extra tool call you give it past that point, it's literally being thrown away. And that right there perfectly illustrates the AI's spending problem. So for this first part, let's really dig into why just upping the budget isn't the solution, and then we'll look at the first really simple and elegant fix that these researchers came up with. So the whole paper hangs on this one crucial concept: budget awareness. The argument is that the problem isn't the size of the budget itself, but that the agent has no awareness of it. It's about teaching the AI to think more like a strategist, to constantly check its remaining resources, like tool calls, which are just chances to use a search or another function, and then to actually adjust its plan on the fly. So think of it this way. The standard, unaware agent is like a shopper who just keeps throwing things into the cart until it's full, never once looking at the price tags. The aware agent, though, is constantly checking its shopping list against what's in its wallet, making strategic choices to get the absolute best value. Whoa, hold on a second, Alex. Are you seriously telling me that the big, groundbreaking innovation here is just adding a single line to the prompt that says, "You have X tool calls left"? That's not a research paper. That's a clever hack you'd find on Twitter. It feels like we're celebrating the discovery of a light switch. Call it a tweet, call it a light switch, I don't care. You can't argue with the green line on this graph. That simple trick is the difference between an AI that hits a brick wall and one that actually keeps getting smarter. The standard agent flatlines. The budget-aware one keeps climbing. It's not about how complex the solution is, Ben. It's about the results. And that simple little tracker was really just the proof of concept. The researchers took that core idea of awareness and built something much more powerful, much more dynamic around it. And that bigger system is called BATS, which stands for Budget Aware Test Time Scaling. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like an AI detective who knows the clock is ticking and every single clue costs them money. Now, I know this looks really complex, but the basic loop here is incredibly smart. BATS doesn't just act blindly. It's in this constant cycle of planning, executing that plan with its tools, and then, and this is the critical part, it verifies its own work, all while keeping one eye on the budget. So let's just break that crazy diagram down. It's basically a 4-step loop. First, it makes a plan. Second, it goes and uses its tools. Third, it gets a possible answer and checks its work. And then fourth, this is the genius of it, it has to decide, is this lead good enough that I should dig deeper? Or is this a dead end and I need to pivot to save my budget? Okay, but all this planning and verifying, that's not free, Alex. Every single step in that fancy loop is another prompt, which means another set of tokens being burned. And tokens are the currency of AI thought. Every word costs something. Aren't we just swapping one very obvious cost, the tool calls, for a much harder to track hidden cost of the AI's own internal monologue? This seems like an incredibly complicated way to maybe save a few pennies. But Ben, the complexity is for efficiency. The paper makes that exact point. By being able to, and I'm quoting here, terminate useless trajectories early, BATS avoids pouring its entire budget down a rabbit hole that's going nowhere. That's a massive saving. It's not about shifting costs around, it's about investing a little bit upfront in a process that prevents huge waste down the line. It's about spending smart. All right, I've heard enough theory, enough with the quotes. Let's see the actual evidence. You're claiming this thing is smarter and more efficient. Show me the data. Does this complicated BATS framework actually deliver better results for the money? Let's see it. All right, Ben, here you go. Here's the proof. This chart maps accuracy against the number of tool calls. BATS is that top line, and you can see it is consistently getting higher accuracy while using fewer actions. It is just flat out more efficient at its job. Okay, fine. Fewer tool calls, I'll grant you that. But now let's look at the next chart, accuracy versus the total cost, which includes all that thinking and verifying I was talking about. Suddenly, the gap isn't so impressive. And more importantly, let's be real about the numbers here. The peak accuracy on this hard test is hovering around 25 to 30%. Are we really celebrating a victory when the best system is still getting the answer wrong 3 out of 4 times? I hear you on the absolute accuracy, but you're missing the most important part of the story. It's not about the raw numbers today, it's about the trend. Look at the chart on the left. The standard AI hits a wall and just gives up. But on the right, BATS is on a clear upward curve. It's actually learning how to use a bigger budget effectively. That's the real breakthrough here. So let's try to pull all of this together. After going back and forth, what's the final verdict on this whole approach? Is it really about making AI smarter and not just throwing bigger budgets at it? So, Ben, after all that, where do you land?
Look, I'll admit it. The idea that you can just throw cash at an AI and expect better results is clearly demonstrably false. That performance ceiling is real, and the core principle of budget awareness, making the AI conscious of its limits, that's just a no-brainer.
So you're a convert?
Not so fast. I think frameworks like BATS are a definite step in the right direction, but let's not act like this is the finish line. Those accuracy numbers are still really low. This is a promising start for sure, but we've got a very long way to go.
I think that's a perfectly fair assessment. It's not the silver bullet, but it's an absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle if we're going to build AI that is both truly intelligent and efficient. Which I think leaves us with one last big question. What really is the true price of a smarter AI? Is it something we can just measure in dollars and cloud credits? Or is it in the human ingenuity it takes to teach a machine not just to spend, but to think before it spends?
A question I'm sure we'll be debating for a long, long time.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.